Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining in. For today's sessions, we're talking about demonstrating ethical practice. But first of all, let me do a short introductions about myself here. I believe a lot of us here may not know about me. My name is Charlene. I am actually from Singapore, and I'm currently on the MCC journey here, together with Aishwarya as well in Jaya's in Abu Jaya's coaching here. Right. So I'm pretty excited with the topic today because I believe this is who I am as a person as well, right? Maybe also let me get to know all of you as we're moving along. But let's help me to type something on the chat here. How are you feeling here right now as we are arriving here in today's session? I'll quickly do my screen share. One word to describe your feeling here right now. Type in the chat.
I'm feeling celebratory because it's festive time here in India.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, we're all like preparing for the upcoming, festivals, Diwali especially. So yeah, I'm feeling really celebratory.
Thank
That's
you.
what
Thank
I'm
you for sharing, Aishwarya. Yeah. And Arti is eager to learn. Great to hear that. Okay. So as we are moving into this ICF Core Competencies over here, we are talking about demonstrating ethical practice. As I was preparing this material for today,
Sorry,
and
Charlene, one
yes,
second. You can remove Aishwarya's note. That is my
okay,
auto profile. You can just
okay, you will,
remove it from yeah.
sure, no problem.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Got it, no worries. Right, we will see. Let me put up my windows as well so I can see everyone. Okay, great. So let's jump in here. As I was preparing this particular slide, and it's also I asked myself these questions: who am I over here as I am actually preparing this entire conversation here for tonight, this evening? How do we actually demonstrate ethical practice, right? As we are arriving in today's conversations here, think about it from the perspective of how is your coaching relationship with your client is a great fit, right, along that line. And I'm going to slowly unfold what's in store here for tonight here, all right? So as we're arriving, I would like to invite you all to take a look at the picture here right now and immerse yourself into that picture and share with me. Either you want to unmute yourself, you want to type in the chat. How do you feel seeing this?
Peaceful, calm.
Yeah, thank you. I'll share mine as well. As I am selecting the pictures for this particular slide, I saw that big rock, and it's like the bedrock of our coaching sessions all the time actually, right? Whereby we stand still in terms of what we believe in ethically, whether and how do we show up as we are creating the ripples for our clients, right? Think along that line. It's a very interesting picture that I saw. That's why I picked this picture. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Nira, any thoughts, any feelings come forward for you? RTT.
Yeah, I'm still internalizing it, but as I look at it, to me, it shows a continuum of constant evolution. The ripples are demonstrating that to me. And the boulder at the center also indicates that on this learning journey, there are situations where one may feel overwhelmed sometimes and hopeful many times and optimistic. So I would look at it as an ongoing journey that helps us continue to navigate how we feel at different points in time.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. It is constant changing. And how are we going to still abide to certain truth in us for us to deliver the coaching sessions to the clients? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Artie, do you have anything to share here? It'd be great that we
My
can. Yep.
perspective is so totally different.
Mm,
To me, the symmetrical circles look so nice and perfect. The rock looks like something that's a misfit in the picture. It's not as symmetrical and as perfect and as aligned as the
mm,
circles around it, kind of
mm.
rugged edges. That's what it looks like to me.
Interesting observations there. Yeah, the unsymmetric, there's no one way of looking at the rock, and whichever way you look at it doesn't seem perfect, which is very interesting. Let's keep it up in our mind about how you feel here arriving here to talk about ethical, right? How do we demonstrate ethical in all our practices? Yes.
Yeah, there's the other thought that's coming up here as well about the importance of continuing to show up with the values we demonstrate and the ethics of the practice that we demonstrate. Because in a coaching journey, there are so many situations that can come up where one can be at situations which can be complex,
Mm,
which can be ambiguous, and may need us to then look within to then
absolutely.
see how we want to show up,
Absolutely.
staying close to the values that we want to stay with.
Yeah, absolutely. And the path that the values that we want to stay with, I also invite to further think about how is our own ripple affecting our client as well along that line as we move, okay? Which I'm going to introduce a little bit more of a very different perspective, looking at the ethical journey together with the coaching itself. All right? Okay.
Mhm.
Right. Good evening, Sada. Okay, you just join in. Okay. Right. So what is really ethical? Have you all thought about it before? What is ethical? Okay.
Something that is right,
Mm,
rule bound, that takes care of the boundaries of a certain relationship.
mm,
Yeah, that looks at the legal aspects of a relationship, of what are possibilities, what should not be done, etc. So that's really something that's a representation of ethics for me.
Thank you for sharing that. The definitions that in my own journey, my own experience, I have seen a very different ethical side of it. The legal issues, the confidential kind of conversations is always there. But however, I also ask myself these questions: where do we apply ethical, right? In the coaching, is it in the coaching sessions, or is it like beyond the coaching sessions as well? I put up a little bit of a questions over here to trigger some thinking a little bit. What about during the time that you are not even coaching, right? I would like to invite you to consider the really subtle ways that ethical start to form certain shapes in every single client interactions beyond the coaching sessions. Sometimes a client texts you, sometimes you gotta go, you are in the sessions, and sometimes you may be on your first session, on your last session itself. So ethical is actually covering the entire process. Keep this thinking in mind, and we're gonna get into the details of it. Okay. So some of the common pitfall itself, when the ethical might be breached, it could lead to over-promising results, pressuring some decisions making. Sometimes client may not be truly listening to the client, and we may be ignoring the client readiness as well, right? So I'll show you that the core competencies role by role itself later on, but let's look at ethics as the root definitions from the ancient time. Right? I'm drawing from the Greek word ethos, and it really means that the character, the custom or the habit that we all carry along with ourselves when we are coaching, when we are facing our client, or even sending them the bill, or even talking about some logistic matters, where's my Zoom link and all these things, right? How you guys are going to apply that? So in the modern world today, right? So it fundamentally embed who you are as a person when no one is watching. That's more important. Are you the same person when you're coaching and not coaching? When you're wearing your coach hat, when you're not wearing a coach hat? Okay, I'm inviting for that thinking a little bit further than just the rules and regulations, the law, the confidentiality clauses, and etc. Okay, what is your internal moral nature? What is your guiding principles? These are really beyond the rules itself. So it's embedded in the character, not really the rule by rule, the code, and the so-called the line by line core competency is really beyond that. Because this is a really bedrock that inform both feelings and reasoning in a person. Okay, so this is a real definitions on what ethics means. So when we're coming back to the ICF core competencies, when we talk about demonstrate ethical practice, what are we actually talking about? So I synthesized it into the 4 pieces here in terms of the integrity and the honesty, the respectfulness, the confidentiality and the trustworthy, and also the principle, which is what is your principle when we are abide by these core values of professional codes and even sometimes under pressure. What if the client is pressuring you to help them, but like you are not the right person, probably, that the client may need to be referred out? What if sometimes being pressured by not signing up the client, that you're unable to, but you need the money? Where is the ethical lies, right? So think along the line of this, and we're going to uncover a little bit more. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself to ask, okay? Because I got quite a lot of things I would like to cover. Right. Along when we are discovering this ethical core competencies over here, I would like to introduce this a little bit more of the foundation in terms of the why and the how, which is I'm drawing in from the 4 agreements from Dawn. And it says that really what being impeccable with your words has this energetic form for you to be able to connect with your client and how truthful it is. Speaking with integrity, really say what you really mean. Sometimes we use words that we may not be so conscious of, and it causes into some issues later on with the clients, maybe not able to understand you, or maybe the client misunderstand it, and then they, think a little bit differently. So the words has a power, and this is your how and the why that formulates your internal integrity that follows. Coaching is a talking profession. We talk all the time. How are we going to talk in a way that helps the client by showing them that guidance they need in that moment? The ICF Core Competency shows you the what you need to do, what you need to behave, and what you need to observe. How are you going to carry that observations? I call this the strategy and the mindset. Some of my coaching that I mentioned to my client. The ICF core competencies can show you the strategy. This is how it looks like, and this is the what. What is your mindset and your way of being that carries together with a strategy to demonstrate that ethical practice over here? Okay. So then what is this thing? I take a snapshot from the ICF website. So what is this thing there? This is word by word as being written in the core competencies. Number 1, the demonstrates ethical practice. There are 7 of them, and we will be going through each of them today, and to really take a look at why is this matter? Why does this even matter? All right. The moment that you show up, the client is already having some unspoken questions about you. Right? This is subconscious. What is your character like? who are you as a coach? Because client is just not coming in for coaching and purchasing a service for you. If you're internal coach, being tasked to coach some high potential employees in the internal settings, and they are really just, they're really entering in this relationship of extreme trust. Client tells us every single thing. They don't even dare to tell their close family members sometimes. And how are you going to behave and carry out the truth to truly support them? In a way that I would like to ask, who you are as a coach fundamentally as well. Okay, let's move on. In the interest of time, I would like to cover as much as I can. Let's see how if I can able to share with you a little bit more about some practices, right? In terms of each and every ethical practice that is suggested by the ICF Core Competency, right? So when do we apply and how do we apply, which is very important. So I classify the coaching or the ethical practice in the coaching is not really an event, not a one-time thing, but it's actually the context, the container that help us to uphold the, someone coming in, to really uphold the coaching sessions itself, the integrity of the coaching sessions. There are 6 stages that I put up here for you to consider how and when can we apply the ethical practice itself. Okay. From the moment your client is actually seeing you, you're kind of like having the first chemistry call, discovery call, and the way that you even market yourself in the market. Or if you're an internal coach, the way that you carry yourself in terms of receiving a coaching assignment, right? If you're pro bono, think about that. What is the kind of message that you're putting across? Does it represent you? Sometimes we may want to uphold some of the professionalism in all the public contents. And are you coaching or are you consulting? Are you clear about what role you are playing? Every single message that you put it out there, right? We can wear both heads, no problem. Right? Some of us have some counseling or therapy background, which is okay. But are you clear in terms of when are you being a coach and when are you being other types of helping professions? And this is being said inside one of the very important code of ethics. I'm putting the numbers there, not saying that on the stage 1, when you're attracting first-time seeing a client, there's only 2 are applicable. What I'm saying is I pay attention to these 2 that I'm highlighting there and inviting you to think a little bit further to really see what might be the truth for you. Okay? Stage number 2. On the discovery call itself, there are a lot of sensitive conversations that might arise that could question us as a coach. Am I worth it? Can I actually close this client? Am I going to provide a safe space? Am I doing sales or am I doing coaching? So what are we doing in the discovery call? Right? How are we setting up a coaching agreement that is, we show transparency of fees, processes, and capability. And then when we hit into the client that is not fit, what are you going to do about that? Okay.
Also, I think sensitivity and respectful language also means because we usually end up coaching culturally different people from across the world.
Absolutely.
And therefore to make sure that using culturally sensitive language and not just using any kind of language while you are coaching. I think those are things that needs to be very mindful practices while the coaching sessions happen. And to be mindful of what is the client's context, sensitivity, culture, etc., that they belong to, and how do they, address whatever
How do they
they
dress? How do they show up? Why they are using the same word as I'm using, but they mean differently.
Correct.
I have ever encountered coaching different cultural perspective. And it's really eye-opening and really taught me to be really take a step back, really ask a clarifying questions. What do you mean by saying okay? Some culture, okay means really okay, but some culture means like, I want to be polite, I don't want to offend you, right?
Yeah.
So what is an okay means? It's a very simple word, right? Check in there whether there's an assumption that is being put in as well, right?
Yeah.
And especially at this stage on the discovery call coaching agreement stage, client may say that, okay, I'll get back to you, right? It's a very common thing. How are you going to uphold that accountability subsequently? Yeah. Some culture really say, okay, I'll get back to you, means like it's a no. So what does it really mean? How are you going to clarify that? As a coach, do you have that clarity? Thank you for sharing that, Aishwarya.
Thank you.
Yeah. So on the third stage itself, all competencies are definitely active in all stages. It's just I'm highlighting certain things here. On here, when client on board, I have a coach recently who told me that, Charlene, what do I do after I onboard? After the client say yes, after the client make payment, what do I do? I say set up towards the coaching session, right? What is your coaching agreement clear? Do you need the client to sign a piece of like black and white paper, or are you have you told your client what they need to do in the first place, right? Moving towards the coaching sessions. Some of the coaches set up in a way that, oh, there is a reflection to do. Some of the coaches just send out an invoice. Some of the coaches just say that, okay, I'll see you on the first session. This is a Zoom link, right? So what is your process itself? And how are you making it clear to the client in terms of setting their expectation from the day that they say yes until the day that the coaching sessions happen? What's happening in between? Are you clear about that? Right? Or you are leaving your client hanging there and waiting for you. And then on the first coaching session, the client says, oops, I forgot the first session. Yeah. So do you need to explain the data privacy policy in certain country? This is very important. Okay. Stage 4. So when we have ongoing
Sorry,
coaching,
just one
yes.
more thing. I think also, it's natural for us sometimes to just make notes while we're coaching. I think even that needs permission from the client, that saying that I would be making some notes, and would it be okay with you? And what
Absolutely.
will be the nature of the notes that you would be taking in your own diary? I think
Yeah.
that also stating that aloud and letting your client know the purpose, the intention, and to seek the permission. I think that's also something that is related to data privacy. While we may look at today, we live in an AI generation, so and a lot of our coachings happen online.
Yeah.
That's one of the bigger privacy issues that we may face. But otherwise, also even in a one-on-one setting, if you're taking notes, I think that needs to be taken permission for.
Yeah, absolutely. That is stated inside the code of ethics, the long document. It is stated inside one of the lines says that you got to let the client know what are you collecting. Just give an example. In one of my recent coaching sessions, but it's not an individual one, it's actually a team coaching sessions. I needed to put up transcript because I need to turn on the transcript for me to take the notes because inside one of the agreement of the team coaching with the company, and it is agreed for me to synthesize what the team is feeling, basically. So I need the verbal teams. So the moment the client actually on board for the sessions, I say this thing to all of them consistently. I say I'm not recording the session because we do not want to name pointings, and I am turning on the transcript itself so that I can capture what is being said, and I can fully present with you to sort out the things that we need to sort out in this session here. Okay, and I say that the transcript is for my upkeeping and for me to summarize what is the main message that, right? We're talking about team relationship, stakeholders, management, and all these things with regards to the work itself. So nothing very confidential, and it's for me to data collect. So I make it very clear the session is for me to collect the data. So it's very important to let the client know what are you doing, right? And what are you collecting? Yes, Dr. Neera.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think it also goes a step beyond about respecting their space and being okay with their response. There could be a situation where they may not be comfortable, not with you
Mm.
taking notes, not with you
Yeah.
recording,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
fine too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it has to be said clearly before the session begin itself. If you're not comfortable, may you want to set up a new contract on the spot, right? Coming back to contracting itself. Right. Thank you for sharing the points. It's all valid. Stage 5. In between sessions. Okay, stage 4 is pretty much in the coaching sessions. All of us know what to do typically, but sometimes we may not be considering what happened between the coaching sessions itself, right? So I am not going so much into this, but today's session I want to focus where is a right fit and when is it a time when we face ethical dilemma sometimes. Like, for example, in between sessions, how are you going to uphold the integrity of the entire coaching engagement? Coaching doesn't only happen in this one session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions, but it's entire engagement. 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, right? So in upholding the integrity itself, how are you using the information from the previous coaching sessions that stack on? And if you're an internal coach, how are you not using the information your clients share to put you in an advantage stage for office politics, right? If you're coached with your own practice, how are you going to stack on the information to be used across the sessions and allowing your client to reflect in the past sessions or past sessions, right? And are you going to make known to your client that, hey, I have these little notes here that we were talking about this thing last week. Why is it different this week, right? We always want to make sure that they know that we are not taking. Okay. Confidentiality itself, it depends also on how are you going to be securing your notes that is in your computer and not leaking out the data. Okay. And how are you not, if you're internal coach, and then how are you not going to mention your coaching work in the casual conversations with colleagues? Because sometimes when our role is not clear, and this is when all the ethical dilemmas start to kick in. Example, if I am doing mentoring half and then a little bit more coaching half, how are you going to wear different hats at the same time? And how are you going to do the switch and let your coach know? I have ever coached one of my best friend before. It's a full paid service. And she chose me for a reason. And in the session, I make it really clear. I'm not your friend right now, but as a coach, and I need to tell you this is based on the issue. So I make a clear, distinct role to the client, which is also my friend at the same time, that I'm wearing a coaching hat. To me, that is something, there is some clarity that I'm giving to the client herself. Okay. Have you all met into any of those situations before, or anything you would like to share and ask at this point? Yes, Dr. Nira.
Yeah. So, I had a situation once where, in fact, a couple of situations which I could share here.
Mm,
One where I was doing a pro bono coaching session,
mm,
and the individual very clearly wanted both coaching as well as what you would call mentoring.
mm,
So I very clearly stated that upfront to say, okay, typically this is not what we cover in coaching
mm,
because this is the philosophy of coaching and this is how it is different from mentoring. But since you're asking me for this request, it will need me to change hats and operate both as a coach and a mentor. Are you okay with that? So the person was okay with that. We got the permission, and then I went ahead and did a little bit of hat switching, though I did continue to keep as much as possible so that the person could think for the person herself or himself, just so that the flavor of being able to find the solutions themselves could be maintained as much as possible, rather than me coming across and giving them answers. So it was more like nudges. That's one. The other that comes to my mind in terms of ethics that we've been talking about was a situation when I was on an assignment with a large multinational. It was part of an initiative for leadership development. And it was agreed that while there was an Uber goal that the organization was working with, they also wanted every leader to work with the flexibility of having their own goals come up. So we had an agreement to say if we're going to work with 3 goals, it's okay to have maybe one goal of their own, or maybe even one smaller goal of their own. And it did translate during the coaching journey for one of the coachees to recognize along the way that the role that was being played out by this individual was really not what this person wanted to do, and was not finding the growth, was not finding cultural fitment, and was probably at a place where there were other options that this person wanted to explore. So to submit here that for me, rather than an ethical dilemma, it came across more as a simpler solution to say, okay, I will do what is right by the coachee under the philosophy of the ethics and the confidentiality. And we are here for the coachee, for the individual to feel free to take the decision that may be the best. And somewhere along the way, maybe several months later, it did translate to this person eventually moving out of the organization and looking at a role outside. So I thought it might be useful sharing here.
Thank you for sharing. It's very important for us to be clear what the client wants, right? And sometimes the client may want different things than what we thought it is. So then the question is like, is it what you want, or is it what the client wants? If whatever the client wants is that what is really helpful in their development, we can always challenge what they want, right? Is it real? Is it true? Is this what you really want, right? And as we are challenging that, also put in your own role as a coach, what's the truth? How can you speak the truth, right? Sometimes the truth is really painful. And you can sometimes, I believe that you can, you may have experienced that client doesn't even want to hear the truth. Their subconscious mind will swing them around and tell you different stories. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you make a very interesting point, because it suddenly brought back one more experience that I thought might be good to share here.
Okay.
Where we started out on a journey. We had like 4 sessions, and somewhere along the way, there was a discomfort because this individual discovered that in order for uncovering what was going on, it needed a deeper dive.
Yeah.
And a deeper dive probably in areas of the self where this person was not comfortable. So I was kind of conveyed that, I'm not comfortable with sharing this, and I'm not comfortable with proceeding. So we both mutually agreed to say, okay, maybe it doesn't make sense for us to then move further. So that was another experience that comes to mind.
Yeah, that is actually on the 1.02 talking about, are you sensitive to the client's identity, environment, experience, values, and beliefs, that something is not really working well in that particular conversations. And sometimes it's also our own beliefs that it's making us not sensitive to that. It happens, right? In the way that you're not comfortable, I'm not comfortable. Okay, let's agree not to proceed into that zone. You see, okay? So it's not just on the client's side. And when we say differences, it's always like, it is not that only what is a client side, it's like what's in between two of us here. Yeah, good observation here. Thank you, Dr. Nira. Okay, moving on to the stage 6. Stage 6 itself talks a lot about the closure. How are we going to close, and what is closure? When we close, and how are we going to end this engagement professionally and discuss the next step honestly? Sometimes some clients may need really other helping professions. Are you going to refer out? And how are you going to ensure the entire coaching engagement that was just ended has met their goal? Any specific content of the coaching material remains confidential? And what about the little notes that you take? What about the client reflections that they share with you? And if there is any recording, how are you going to ensure that subsequently is going to keep it in a safe place as what you have promised the client? And we don't want like a few years down the road and then some data got leaked out and the client go like, why are you telling my past stories around? And especially during the testimonials that you all publish online sometimes, did you get your client's permission to actually publish something online about them, right? My own personal practice is I don't talk any of the coaching conversations, not even the content itself in most of the social media platforms, because I fully respect who the client is, and sometimes I don't think it's necessary to talk a lot about that, right? Unless the client is very willing to give me testimonial, great, I'll accept it and I'll receive it and I'll post it out. And so I do ask, and when you receive the testimonial, did you mention that, hey client, this is going to be in a public space? Can you give me 1 or 2 words about that? Or did you just ask, hey client, can you give me a testimonial? Without telling them where is the testimonial is going to be placed, right? We have multiple places that we can put testimonials. Either your webinar, poster, either your social media platform, sometimes in your ads, right? If you run advertisement, sometimes in your ads. And all these are really public spaces. Does your client know that? Public spaces also include your websites, of course. And this is actually is part of your closure to make sure that you are still fulfilling your integrity and your code of ethics as per the coaching agreement itself. Okay, because some of us only see that as stage 4, like I mentioned earlier on, right? But as a professional coach, we know that process of coaching is actually the entire engagement from the first day the client sees you until they say goodbye to the client. It's from a hello to bye, right? And the entire engagement, and sometimes stretch beyond the current engagement itself as well, so that we actually uphold that ethical practice, and then we continue to build trust. And trust itself is your trust and integrity is your brand itself, is who you are as a coach, and it is a huge asset itself. If you can't give your client a sense of comfort in terms of where they are with you, it's going to break the trust. And think about which part of the ethical container timeline that you're in when you're sharing about when you're demonstrating the ethical practice itself. Okay? Because it will touch on the boundary conversations with yourself as a coach, and how are you going to embed that in your coaching practice itself? Because clients come to us with a hope to solve a lot of problems for them, but sometimes it takes time. And how are you going to set up the boundary to actually go through the process with them in a coaching setting, right? And the words itself, it's your assets, like I say, right? And sometimes the internal impeccability, it's really your source, your bedrock, and this is a safeguard for you to not to fall into the ethical dilemma stage. Knowing what you're doing is the best truth at that point of time. Otherwise, as a coach, it's very easy to fall into the zone of like, I'm not good enough, I need this client to validate me. And yes, I close the sessions in like 45 minutes instead of 1 hour. And all these things are your internal self-esteem conversation as a coach, right? And it erodes in your confidence, sometimes erode your boundaries. Because the best way, from my own personal experience, how I have been protecting my integrity in the ethical practice itself is really practice self-compassion. Because you do not need to inflate your credentials, and you do not need to give free advice to prove your worth, and you really do not need to pressure to close a case itself, right? Sometimes when clients say no, to me it's a great decision because they make a decision for themselves. Okay, when your self-worth is very intact, your ethical practice will really flow naturally. Okay, yeah, thank you, Sarada, for that thumbs up. Okay, oops, yeah. The soul of the practical ethical practice itself is really coming down to the why and the how, which comes from your words. When you're saying okay, do you really mean okay? Or you're just saying okay for the sake of like politeness? Ask yourself the same questions too, right? ICF competencies give us a body, the observable behavior, but what's come before that? What is your soul of ethical practice? Because we don't just follow the rules, when we really embedded the essence of the ethics itself, because it will illuminate out from us. Because your presence is becoming the trustworthy, the trademark of you, who you are as a person. Your internal thinking, your external words are truly aligned. And you don't feel like my head and my heart is separated, that kind of conversations. Okay? Because it's really going to truly transform the way that you coach if you practice a little bit more on the self-compassion to really love yourself. And that's how we can share love with our client. Okay? To me, this is really a sacred practice of service. The really bedrock of that, all the competencies. How are you going to carry the integrity forward from now on? Let's share in the chat, or you want to unmute yourself. What might be possible from here? Dr. Nira, you're muted if you're speaking.
Sorry, no, I wasn't going to say anything. I was just appreciating the power of the last sentence and the one before that, where I just felt it resonated very deeply.
This one?
No, the one that you just had on the slide
This
out
one?
there.
Yes.
Emanating ethics. A coach who masters disagreement doesn't just follow, but emanates. Very
Exactly.
powerful.
Yeah.
And transforms from a compliance exercise into a sacred practice of service. I just felt
Thank
it
you.
resonate very deeply. So thank you.
Thank you. So how might you practice that, right? So that it's talking about practice, and what might you started to observe the way that you emanate the ethics from now on. Yeah. Okay. So with this, I'm going to end today's sessions here. That's all I have for you here. And if you would like to connect me on the LinkedIn, and this my number is also in the community, you can scan this LinkedIn link here. Really, because when we emanate that type of ethics that is truly down from the bottom of our heart, that's how possibility can be created. This is in my belief too.
Lovely.
As a person.
Charlene, I would really like for you to share your email ID in the chat if that's okay. I can copy it from there and keep it with me.
No problems. Let me quickly back it up.
Thank you, Charlene. I think it was a fabulous session. And I've learned a lot through this process. Thank you so much for walking us through the whole ethical practice as defined by ICF, and also adding what really it means, what is the word in itself that, is spoken of for so many centuries now.
Yeah.
And and the changing meaning that has, as we go along. So thank you so much, Charlene, for a wonderful session.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'll see you, Aishwarya.
Bye-bye.
Right. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Charlene.
Charlene.
Thank you
Bye,
very
Charlene.
much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.